Western countries in a direct military conflict with Russia is pretty much the nightmare scenario for the world, and it has been since the end of World War II. During the Cold War, for decades, Canadians, Americans, and Europeans lived under the shadow of the Cold War and the potential destruction of the entire planet. And now it seems we are back there once again. Carney says Canada will join military assistance pledge for Ukraine. And Putin responds by saying that foreign troops in Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets to Russia. Things really are heating up in this proxy war between the West and Russia. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Johnny Says So. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way in. Now, when Donald Trump was campaigning for a second term in the White House, one of the main things he promised was to end the war in Ukraine. He even boasted that he would have the thing done before he was even inaugurated. Now, this, I guess, was supposed to hinge on some sort of deal that he was going to strike between Zelensky and Putin. But the deal never materialized and the war raged on. And now, Donald Trump is pretty much back to square one, right where Biden was, threatening sanctions against Russia.
I am not thrilled with what's happening there, I will tell you. I think it's going to get settled. So I settled 7 wars. This, I would have said, would have been maybe the easiest one to settle of all. But with war, you never know what you're getting. But we're going to get it, I believe we're going to get it settled. But I am not happy with them. I'm not happy with anything having to do with that war. It's just such a waste of great humanity.
Now, despite having meetings with both Putin and Zelensky over the past few months, Donald Trump has failed to secure any sort of quote-unquote peace deal between the two countries. Now, Trump's cooked a lot of spaghetti and he's thrown it at a lot of walls, trying to find something that will stick. But so far, nothing has. Kind of like the rare earth minerals deal. Remember that? That was the idea that the U.S. would secure a contract with Ukraine and they would start mining for rare earth minerals, thus creating a situation where if Russia were to attack American interests, it would be mutually assured destruction, just like the Cold War. But the problem with this, guys, it's just another step in the very same reason that the war broke out to begin with, and that is Russia doesn't want the West on its back door. And this security guarantee thing is no different. So here we have this article from August 19th. And this follows, of course, Trump's meeting with Zelensky and other European leaders. Trump promised Ukraine security guarantees. Here's what they could look like. And from the article, the most significant development result for Kiev and Europe, however, was Trump's statement that security guarantees for Ukraine would be, quote, provided by European countries in coordination with the U.S. So in other words, European troops on the ground, but not Americans. Describing that as a major step forward, Zelensky said later that the package of security guarantees for Ukraine, highly coveted by Kiev's leadership and seen as a deterrent to future Russian aggression, will include, get this, a massive purchase of American weapons, with financing reportedly supported by Europe. The agreement would be formalized on paper within the next 10 days. So in other words, U.S. defense contractors and weapons manufacturers and the entire military-industrial complex machine are going to continue to reap huge profits from this war continuing, while Canadian taxpayers are left footing the bill. After all, we've already sent billions to Ukraine, and Mark Carney just keeps pledging more and more. And what does this have to do with Canada to begin with? After all, this meeting between Donald Trump, Zelensky, and other European leaders, Mark Carney wasn't even invited, guys. He wasn't there. And as CBC Watcher hilariously points out, if you squint really hard at a frame grab released by the PMO, you can make out the Prime Minister there in the lower part of the screen. The focus for this meeting was the security guarantees for Ukraine. Struggling to help the PMO keep Carney relevant on the world stage after being left out of the White House meeting yesterday. CBC News.
Canada is taking part as we speak this morning in talks aimed at building on developments from that extraordinary White House summit aimed at ending Russia's war on Ukraine. We have some new images of Prime Minister Mark Carney from that conversation this morning, frame grabs from the virtual meeting that was co-chaired by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron. You can make out the Prime Minister there in the lower part of the screen. The focus for the
Canada has become completely irrelevant on the world stage, and now we are making bold threats about putting troops on Russia's back door. Now, apparently, this security guarantee of having European and indeed Canadian troops on the ground in Ukraine is only going to take effect if there's an actual ceasefire established between Russia and Ukraine. But now that it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon, Mark Carney is still talking about putting Canadian troops on the ground. As gov.exe is corrupt points out, holy shit, Mark Carney is fully prepared to go to war with Russia by supplying Ukraine with boots on the ground. This is insane. This is not our war.
Prime Minister, you and your office announced yesterday a willingness to support Ukraine with military scalable assistance, military assistance to support a lasting peace of the country. But now we've heard the Russian president reject such security assurances. He says that any troops, foreign troops in Ukraine would be a legitimate target. Does that change at all your stance that was announced yesterday?
Now, did you catch the body language there? The way he shook his head like that? No, Mark Carney is not concerned at all with putting Canadian troops in harm's way.
Look, President Putin is the cause of this war. He has not yet come to terms with the need for peace. We need to maintain, through the coalition of the willing, other allies, the Ukrainian armed forces need to maintain maximum pressure. First and foremost, that's the Ukrainian army. But yes, it will need to be backed up by robust and credible security guarantees. That's why Canada is in the coalition of the willing. And through part of that, Mr. Putin is the cause of this war. He's the reason for the killing. He is not going to dictate the terms of the peace.
Now, when I say this decision would put Canadian troops in harm's way, I'm not being hyperbolic at all. In fact, France seems to be signaling that they are gearing up for a major military conflict by March of 2026. Check this out, guys. This is concerning.
Hospitals across France have reportedly been told to prepare for a potential armed conflict by next year, with the government urging health providers to be ready. According to French media, in a leaked letter sent to health agencies across the country, the government says hospitals should be prepared for a major military engagement as soon as March 2026. It said that between 10,000 and 50,000 men could be expected in French hospitals over a 6-month period, which could include foreign soldiers who are coordinated with NATO and the EU. They are planning medical transit centres to make use of regional facilities and to distribute patients arriving from potential front lines. According to the reports, doctors are also being warned to prepare for shortages. The French health minister hasn't denied the letter and stressed it was a precautionary measure, but that aggression from some actors means the country needs to prepare for the worst. It comes months after the government announced a survival manual which is set to be sent to every household in the country. The 20-page booklet is said to include details of what to do in a variety of emergencies, including nuclear blasts and natural disasters, and contains a survival kit packing list, which includes water, tinned food, paracetamol and a torch.
Now that is damning. 50,000 wounded troops potentially in French hospitals, and that includes foreign troops. What do you want to bet that Canadians are included in this tally? And they're talking about March of 2026. That's really only a few months away, guys. And with no actual ceasefire on the horizon, it seems like this quote-unquote security guarantee is just an escalation in the war that we really don't need. After all, it's not just our people in the military that we have to be worried about, but Russian hypersonic missiles can actually touch Canadian cities. And Mark Carney will be safe no matter what happens, but you and me won't. So this is an escalation that we cannot have. But that's going to be my show for tonight, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Johnny from Nova Scotia says thank you. Hey, Johnny from Nouvelle-Écosse, il dit merci, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Yeah, come on.